G'day guys, Bushka on Blitz here. I'm Bushka, you're on Blitz. Welcome back, good to have you with me. We're going to have a look today at the E50, this very interesting German medium tank. Big chunk of grey metal, look at it, solid looking bugger. If you haven't done so already, please do subscribe. It's always helpful to see the numbers ticking up there, makes life worthwhile. We're going to have a look at this tank with regard to some of its compatriots and peers. I've got all 4 tier 9 mediums at the present. It's actually one of those nice crops of tanks, like a tier 7 heavy. There's no really bad tanks. They've all got quite a unique little niche as well. The E50 is definitely the sniper of the group. The Centurion 7 Mark 1 is right up there, but it does lack a little bit. T54 is the all-round brawler and bloodfest machine if you want to get out there and fire gold ammo and smash people. That T54 is probably the go. And the M46 Patton's very nice on-the-move killer. This tank for me, I only got it not so long ago actually, and it's been a really fun tank. Where are we? Vehicles. You gumnut. E50. Only got 82 games up in it at 67%. It's a really, really solid machine. I platoon a fair bit in this tank, and as such, it's probably going to drop that win rate for me, I'd suggest, as I go forward. I have a feeling this one will settle more around the 60% mark, but regardless of that, it's a lovely tank. What I found in my limited time in this tank is that it has a couple of really interesting attributes. It's a heavy tank that goes fast, and as such is an excellent ramming tank, would you believe? It's really something you should be doing in this tank, is especially when you brawl with tanks like this, little 35-ton tanks. If you can line them up and hit them, you'll break their tracks, you'll immobilize them, and you'll really put some damage into them. Likewise, the Centurion's a big tank. It's 53, 52 tons. You're coming in excess of 60 tons. So at any point in time, if you have the opportunity and the situation calls for it, feel free to ram away. Obviously, don't ram KV4s and big, heavy tanks, but for the most part, you're a little more hefty than most of the tanks in the battlefield. If you ever wonder which medium ate all the pies, it's the E50, 60 tons plus, hell of a tank. So, it's a great rammer, it's got an incredible gun, and it's probably the best sniper going around in terms of tier 9. If we have a quick squeeze at the gun stats, and by the way, you should be grinding this gun. Don't touch this gun, the 8.8cm L100. It's a waste of time. It's not as good as the other tier 9, and for the sake of grinding the turret, which you should be grinding anyway, you're going to get access to this one, and eventually here, you might want to grind that one down if you eventually have some free XP, but if you want to get to the E50M fastest and get to your best gun quickest, that's the way to go. Anyway, that's just how I'd do it. 0.30 dispersion is the first thing that stands out on this page. Now, that's the best at tier 9. 0.3 is absolutely laser-like, and you'll see in some of the gameplay that this gun and this tank itself excels as a backline sniper. Rate of fire at 6.8 is a little on the low side, but it's only to be expected, because really, if they up that rate of fire, it would be quite unfair on the rest of the tanks running around. Now, your penetration at 220 is certainly not best in tier, but it's more than adequate for what it's called upon to do. For instance, the T54's penetration is only 201, if memory serves correctly, and that makes for an all-out DPM of 2,380, which is right up there. Absolutely fine for a tier 9 medium, and more than adequate for your purposes. What it really does excel at, though, is sniping, and with a 350 alpha, that's where you want to be. You're going to get those one shots, then they get back into cover. 6.8 rounds per minute is enough for that to be very effective. Aim time of 2.1 seconds. It's one of the things that it doesn't really hold the tank back, but it's not best in class. Your high explosive doesn't really factor into it. Obviously, with a penetration of 60, you're not going to get to use that very often, and you don't want to waste time with that. Now, just to point this out, I've got medium reviews up for the T54 and the Centurion 7 Mark 1. Both those tanks have characteristics that set them aside from others. But the one thing the Centurion 7 Mark 1 does share with the E50 is a very accurate gun, 0.32 dispersion and a 1.9 second aim time. Now that's on the Tier 9 gun. The gun most people use on this is the L7A1, the Royal Ordnance. That shares a very good dispersion rate of 0.32, but you can see it's 2.3 aim time, which is again 0.2 above the E50. Its rate of fire is a pedestrian 5.69, which is very, very poor for a medium tank. It does, however, beat it in terms of penetration. Same alpha at 350. The high explosive alpha is not to be relied upon. That's Hesh rounds. And yeah, you should really have a look at the Centurion 7 Mark 1 review if you want to delve into that a little bit deeper. It's very important. So, we've got the best gun, in my opinion, in Tier 9 mediums. We're the best ramming tank, which is not something you usually rely upon, but which is a real feather in the cap for this tank. Why don't you see more E50s on the battlefield? You well may ask. That's because it's preceded by these two buggers, the Panther and the Panther II, which in my opinion is basically the worst grind in the game. This thing stopped me a couple of times from getting the E50, and in fact I eventually gave in and just free XP'd my way for the most part through the Panther II. The gun, look at this. Firstly, the best engine on the Panther is the Maybach TRM P30. It outputs 700 horsepower on a 48.5-ton tank. It's quite a sluggish tank, and with low mastery and a tough grind to get through to that engine, it really moves very slowly. The only problem I have with that is it's also the best engine on the Panther II, which then gets heavier, is now a 53-ton tank. So it's 8 tons heavier, same bloody engine, sluggish as all hell, and the Panther II uses, I don't want to go on this too long because obviously I'm digressing a little bit away from our main aim here, but the Panther uses the 8.8 centimetre L71. That, my friends, is exactly the same gun, 8.59, look at those stats, as the good old Tiger 1, your Tier 7 heavy. 8.5 seconds, 7 rounds per minute, 0.34 dispersion, 2.9 second aiming time, all those kind of things. That's on your Tier 8 medium. You struggle to pen things. It's not the best weapon going around. It's a very tough grind, and it's one of the reasons why this tank is not more popular and not seen more widely on the battlefields. The E50 and the E50M are absolutely superb tanks. The Panther and the Panther II are every bit as bad, in my opinion. So you won't be seeing a review on those two tanks anytime soon. I'd rather eat my own legs. So here we go. Let's have a look at the armour of the E50. Here we are looking at the armour. Now I'm going to have a look quickly at the collision model. You can see this upper plate, it's only 150 millimeters, but as with most of the German tanks, it's been severely angled to around about 57, 60 degrees. The lower plate, 100 millimeters. Now, the standard rule applies with the E50 that applies to most German tanks. That is, upper glacis, good, lower glacis, freaking terrible. So whatever you do, you want to hide that massive big window to hell, the lower glacis. Your transmission is located somewhere, see that white dot there? I believe that's around about the transmission, but basically if you get hit in the lower glacis in this tank, there's a good chance you'll be set on fire. It's very, very pennable. We're using the gun as an example to shoot at us at the moment. We're using the Royal Ordnance L7A1 that the Centurion 7 Mark 1 and the FV4202 carry. You want to angle this tank slightly. You don't want to over-angle it. One of the issues I have is that after playing so many E75 games, this tank looks a lot like the E75. It's just a smaller version, and the Tiger II, and that whole line, very similar looking tanks. The chassis is near identical. You want to play it like that, but you don't want to over-angle. You're only looking at a 10 to 15 degree angle on this tank. You don't want to go like the 35 degree angle you can afford to go on the E75, which gives you a lower glacis that you can sometimes make unpennable or a bounce zone. And I do struggle in the early gameplay recordings on this tank where I over-angle and get penned by even tier 7 tanks, because obviously that's not a lot of armour on that side. Now your upper plate, lovely tank, great upper plate, angle of 58 degrees there. You can see even when it's downwards a little bit, you can still, but if you get it up in the air like that with your lower glacis covered sniping at range, it's a really tough machine to pen. Your side armour, as is the want of most German tanks, is negligible. You're looking at 80mm straight up. Even with your tracks, if they shoot you in the tracks on the side, unless it's heat or HE, you're going to get penned. Yeah, the armour, nothing invincible about the tank, but I find that if I'm brawling or I'm in a close situation, I just take it for granted that the lower pen's going to be available, and I try and make my angle something along those lines so they have to shoot the lower pen. If you see them looking down at that lower glacis or pointing their gun towards it, I'll move my tank from side to side and just try and take the shot on my track when I'm moving backwards and forwards. That's about all you can do. Obviously, if you're more mobile than them, you try and get around them. It's one of the reasons why it's not a bad idea to face hug another medium tank. If you can push hard enough, track them, and then face hug them, that front plate may be at an angle where they can't actually pen it and they won't be able to see the lower plate, and you're quick enough to stay up with them on that. So, there you go, boys and girls. That's the armour. So we've had a look at the line of the tank that you've got to grind through. We've had a look at the gun. We've had a look at the fact that it's a brilliant rammer. We're going to have one quick look at the mobility, which is nothing to write home about. It's 34 degrees of traverse speed and 30 degrees of turret traverse. Now, to put that into perspective, let's have a look at this little nippy bugger here, the T54. You're looking at a very manoeuvrable tank, 48 degrees of traverse and 44 degrees of turret traverse. If we have a look at the heavies, good old M103, and we have a look at the traverse speed of the M103, you'll see it's got 28 degrees of traverse and 20 degrees of turret traverse. So you're slightly above that, which is a very nimble tank for a heavy in terms of keeping mediums in front of it. You are slightly above that, but you're certainly not a T54. You're not going to circle of death stuff unless they're very slow and they have absolutely terrible traverse speed. The profile on this tank, the camouflage, they're not great. They're the worst in its class in terms of tier 9 mediums, which leads me into your equipment. You could put a net on it if you so desire. There's only two real prerequisites in my mind for this tank. You need vents and you need a rammer. You want to maximise your reload speed. You want to maximise your accuracy and your dispersion. You want to maximise all the crew skills you can. After that, I've gone with an enhanced gun lane drive, which is plus 10% to aiming speed, because I play this in the main as a sniper and then flank halfway through the map maybe. You don't want to be aiming at a tank and have it slip behind cover while you're sniping, because quite often tanks will duck out to take a shot and you've only got a very small window of time to turn to them and get the shot off. So at 10% aiming speed as a baseline before vents and everything is included, you're going to take 0.21 seconds off your aim time, which is 2.1, so you're basically looking at 1.79 as an aim time. 1.89 as an aim time, which is good. It's really good, and that's really, really quick as an aim time, and it's faster than you can reload, that's for certain, but at least that's helpful. But I would not have an issue with anyone even using binoculars if you're going to be stationary sniping or coated optics. I'd use a camo net before I use binoculars, and coated optics is kind of the middle ground where it's not quite enough and you're not going to be scouting with this tank, and it's camo is terrible anyway. That I'd rather just go with a camo net than coated optics or binoculars, because they're very much purpose driven for a sniper. Likewise, I don't see a real reason for toolbox, but I've had people talk about putting spore liner on because they ram a lot in this tank. And then you have the good old medium vertical stabilizer, which is never anything to disregard. I'd probably go that or a camo net myself as a third choice. But again, vents, gun rammer. Those are the two that you really must have, in my opinion. And I run a turbo for my engine and power boost, simply because I find it more important to get somewhere first, like a mines, the hill on mines, or the sniping positions in Oasis Palms, then get there second and have an adrenaline. you're better off being the guy that gets where he wants to go than the guy that has to fight to get it. So, that's the tank. I feel like we've covered it off pretty comprehensively. It's a big tank. It's a very formidable looking tank. And it's a hell of a marksman. And if you want to play that sniper, there is none better, in my opinion, the E50 and the E50M. So let's have a look at some gameplay, boys and girls. Most of the gameplay I've had in this tank has been platooned. I'll also include a few clips of ramming. We actually do take out one of my mates from the forum and one of my platoon mates that I quite often run a Cromwell with, Agon, on mines. Have a squiz at the gameplay, see what you think. Leave any comments and feedback you want in the section underneath the video. Or you can always drop me a line on the Asian Blitz forums, the English-speaking forum there, or send me an email. Great to have you along. Subscribe if you haven't already, and hope you enjoy yourself. Cheerio. Now here we are on Desert Sands. I'm platooned up with my good mate Snake Eyes Warrior. He's in his M103, which is a very good platoon partner. He actually carries big time in this game. You'll see in a second what I'm talking about with over-angling on this tank. There's a T20 up ahead. Now, I take the angle that I'd normally take with an E75, get up against the rock. I feel pretty comfortable. I've just given him too much of my ass, and he takes advantage and pumps one into me. But it's always a learning experience. You're learning all the time in this game. Now, we've put basically our whole team in the field on the left. They've got 2 mediums. We're going to dominate the left and then hopefully swing round. But they've seen we've got 3 mediums and their entire team has come to their right. As such, you have one of those brilliant games where you end up with 14 tanks blowing each other up in a 50 square metre radius. And it's a testament to this tank that it can really contribute on all grounds in all kinds of terrain and all kinds of games. Very accurate, very quick aim time with that gun lane drive. You can see how quickly we get into that T54. We miss our next shot, or we hit him rather, but it doesn't do any damage. And again, testament to the versatility and the power of this gun. Even going backwards, downhill, on the move, we still managed to hit the target. There's an IS-8, it's popping up here on the right. Now, remember what I talked about with this tank with ramming. I'm going to pop my turbo boost on the engine. Basically, I want to come up high and then turn in a big arc down into him at top speed and hammer him. Excellent tank. Now, Snake Eyes is in the middle of it all. I can see he's got 3 coming on the left. I've got a guy on my right, but I've got to go help my platoon mate. I'd love to crack that T54. He's my first choice, but this IS is just everywhere in front of me, so I just go with the IS that I can see and can hit. This IS, God bless him, he is absolutely everywhere. You can see very, very accurate gun. E75's flanked us now. I can't get this IS to get out of the way, so he's going to get cleaned up in a sec. Everyone, look at the carcasses of dead tanks. It's an absolutely brilliant game. One of the most fun games I've had in a while. Very hectic. Targets and bullets flying everywhere. Snake Eyes is just destroying people. I back up from this IS-3. I don't want to take any more damage. And bounce another one from that E75. I get some unholy bounces in this game, but it all goes. There's another bounce there. Now that E75, that shot I took from the T20 at the start is the reason that this E75 gets the kill on me. If I had that extra little bit of love, wouldn't have been an issue. You can see Snake Eyes trying to get between me and that E75 there. Great fun game. The T25's turned up and you can see even though the E75 gets me, another shot comes in from the T25, would have finished me anyway there. And Snake Eyes bangs him out. And I congratulate everyone involved because that was a great fight. Great fun fight. Plenty of adrenaline, blood rushing. And this T25 finishes in style by trying to ram the M103. Good on you, fush fush. So, great fun fight. About 5k damage for Snake Eyes. Look at him there. Just over 3k for me. And here we are. This time I'm with I Destructions. I don't believe he's in ID the Clan. I think it's just a happy coincidence that his first initials are ID. Now we're going left flank out here on Temple. I've just speeded it up here. Obviously that's not real game time because we're mucking around getting into position. Now this tank you should always be angling. And you can see every time I get to an obstacle, sounds a bit boring and it's a little bit slow, but I get to an obstacle, I put myself in a position where I can side scrape off it and reverse angle out. What that means is that you're far less likely to take damage, and it might take you a little bit of extra time to get there, but by far better to be safe than sorry in most circumstances. Now you can see with that gun lane drive, the aim time on this tank is significantly lower. You're under 2 seconds. With vents, you're actually even shorter than that. You're probably around about 1.7. But a long shot, very quick aim time. And this is where this tank excels. We're a far flank sniper, and as frustrating as that might be for a lot of people, you can just see that this tank chews through the enemy when it's given the opportunity to hit a flank. Now, it also is a tier 9 medium, so it can excel, it can get in there, and it can be a bit rough and tough. But if you get it on a flank like this, where it can get clear shots, it can be incredibly accurate, and incredibly effective. A lot of my teammates here get upset with me. They start telling me to run and get in, but it's pretty much par for the course. If you're going to go the flank and you're going to use this tank the way it's meant to be used, don't be put off by people calling you a sniper, by people telling you that you're a coward or whatever. You know, people take this game very seriously sometimes. I know I'm prone on occasion to losing my rag when people don't play the way I'd like them to play. But yeah, this tank is most effective at range. Very lucky T44 that we hit a bit of the wall, bit of loose debris, soft cover. So it's getting towards a time where we do have to move in, however. That M103 up there does get taken up. Run E50 says bright. Work, whatever. We've been working hard out here, mate. Don't snipe. Yep, understand. Because it is time to get moving. And you can see that this tank is versatile. We're going to snipe, then we're going to get in there, and we're going to clean up very, very quickly and very, very effectively. Now, if you're working with a heavy, it's always a good idea to use them somewhat like the anvil and you be the hammer. Eye Destructions is going to go straight up the guts. I want to get that T54. So I'm going to go left, use him as the pincer, and I'm going to push against him. And so we're on the flank now. He's holding the middle. We're working a quick little shake and roll. There's the T50. And there you go. Noob E series, says Bright. Whatever, mate. We're carrying you. You wouldn't know. Great. Great tank. Can't say enough about it. Look, it's gone from being a super sniper into chasing down this T54 and putting 3 in him in a row. There's 1,000 damage very, very quickly. The T44 came up to help that T54. Unfortunately, no good for him, and we're now going to chase down the IS-8. Really interesting game. I think that highlights some of the keys for this tank. It's very versatile. It's a tier 9 medium, and it's got that incredible gun, but it can shake it up if it absolutely has to. And in a straight line, it's a very quick tank. It's got a 900 horsepower engine, and even at 60 tons, once it gets rolling, you can see it's chasing this poor old thing down. It's going to ram it too. Another IS-8 ram kill coming up. So I think we both do a shade over 3K there. Nothing spectacular, but a really good game to illustrate the joys of the E50. 3.5. There you go. Now, Winter Malinovka. Snake Eyes Warrior again. He's going to go up. I tell him, yep, go for your life. I've found it to be very ineffective in Winter Malinovka. In this tank in particular, in some mediums that are quick enough to get there first, it can work. But to actually get up the top early in this tank is not a terribly good thing to do. Because of the gun depression and the way the tank works, you quite often find that you're getting penned. You've got a weak hatch on top, and you've got a very weak turret gun mantle area. So I like to sit at the back and do a little bit of sniping. So we fast forwarded through there. you'll see again, this is long range. And when you stop, the gun reticle with that gun lane drive again, getting very, very small, very, very quickly. That T-54 down there knows he's got to worry about someone. But the flight speed through the air of the AP rounds is really good. With APCR, it's even better. So you don't have to lead the target a lot. And with that kind of dispersion, we've had 3 shots, 2 have done damage, 1 of them's taken out his track, and the 4th shot is going to hit him dead set in the middle again. We put 1 in here even though we've lost his spot, just to make sure he's not still sitting there being silly. But he's gone. Turn around, leave him alone. There's an AFK Centurion behind me, so I've got no qualms whatsoever. If he comes up behind me to try and put a shot in, the Centurion's going to spot him first. Now this may seem somewhat boring to you if this is not your type of tank. This is unfortunately what this tank has going for it. And I find it's one of the worst things you can fall into this, worst traps you can fall into in Blitz, is to play the tank the way the other people want you to play the tank. You can see, as mentioned, the Centurion has spotted him up for me, so he's a very easy kill. If you're in a tank destroyer and an E50 or a tank that has an incredibly effective, very, very accurate gun, you want to take advantage of that. And to not do so is a disservice to your team, whether they know it or not. If you go charging up there in an E50, it's not always going to be the best course of action. There will be times when it's called for, and there are times when we do it. But you can see here, the heavies have gone up top. They're holding the line. Everything that pops up and gives me a slight angle here, I can hammer. And that's an STI. Now, I find STIs to be very difficult tanks to pen. Even from the side there, we got him. Again, a testament to the quality of the gun. But they, for mine in Tier 9, are just about the hardest targets. Now, I'm not going to waste shots. Even though we have a super accurate .30 dispersion gun, I'm waiting for the opportunity. There you go. And there's also a Carnarvon out there and a T-29. There's a Centurion somewhere around. We're just looking for those targets. Here comes the T-29. He's on a death or glory run. I'll let you guess which of the 2 he receives. Yeah, it's death for the T-29. And I think the Carnarvon, he calls him noob. He's told him he's a noob because he's a sniper. And he's right. I'm sitting out there. Now, the STI is in all kinds of trouble. Look at this shot. There's not a lot of options there, but we've got it bang on the money. Very, very accurate gun. It's the absolute joy of driving this tank, is its ability at distance to put a bullet through the eye of a needle. Now, the game's all but over here. We will have one instance of shaking it up and putting a bit of ram into someone. I'll slow that down so I can walk you through the joys of ramming, even a heavy medium tank. The Carnarvon's going to be done for by another tank over there in the circle. There you go. We're going to pump on down, have a tango with this Centurion. What we're also going to do is slow the video right down so you can have a look at the ramming and the actual physics of it. You can see there we've put one into his track area there. It's already weakened his track. So as we push down the hill, he's actually going backwards, which will lower the momentum, or he, she, the tank, whoever's driving. We'll hit one track first, and that will track his left side. Because he then continues down the hill and he's moving against that track, the momentum will then track his right track. You can see it come off just about here. That means when you come out of the ram, at the bottom of the hill, he can't move. You pop one in his turret, and Bob's your uncle, or your mother's brother. So as boring as that may seem, sitting there at the back, sniping away, you're still looking at in excess of 4,000 damage and a very easy win. Now, talking of ramming, you can see here this is a great opportunity. My eyes bigger than buckets coming around the corner and seeing this guy at the bottom of the hill. And boom. Next example of ramming is my good mate Agon on the STI. He's looking at me there. I'm a one-shot kill. We're on mines. I think I'm with Snake Eyes again. Yeah. And I'm giggling already. I typed he 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 because I know exactly what's coming. I'm waiting for him just to drop a little further. And that's it. We're going in. We're going to hit just about 50 Ks. It's going to do us no good, but it's certainly going to do him no good. Great fun. Great fun thing to do. Ramming this tank is hilarious. And I'm giggling away in the background like a little schoolgirl. Well, onwards and upwards. Here we are, our last map, Castella. Now, again, Snake Eyes Warrior. It was very easy to get the gameplay for this. Basically, as soon as I decided to do the review, had a couple of hours platooning, and there was a hell of a lot of games that were around 3k to 3.5k damage. This being one of them. Very good support tank. If you can get a mate who's in a heavy to push forward, you can cover them quite comfortably. The only tank, as I mentioned before, that I really have issues with at tier 9 in this vehicle is the STI. Even with APCR, if you get an STI that's angled correctly, it's very, very difficult at range to pen them. And that's what we come across here with Korea Ace 1, who I've seen quite a few times out and about. He's a good driver. Even switching to APCR, that turret is still a sea of red. We go for the glory shot there with the hatch. I'm starting to panic here just a touch because I've told Snake Eyes to push on forward. And yet he's now got 2 heavies on him, and I'm not going to be able to do much with that STI. And I'm saying negative because I really want him to draw back. In fact, I nearly type it, but there's just no time. I track the STI. I'm going to try and get through that drive wheel. Gives him a chance to actually get away, though, at least. The IS-8, I finally got a target I can pump something into. Now you can see just how good a quality gun this is. The aim time with that gun lane drive is very quick. Using APCR, we're just going through him like a knife through butter, that IS-8, and suddenly the odds are looking a lot better for Snake Eyes. We've got a good angle there on the STI, and the tables have turned. The Tiger 1 is moving up to support, as well as there's a couple of other tanks down there, and things are looking solid. I'm worried now about the left. There's 3 tanks, possibly even 4 tanks coming through on the left, and there's an IS-8 who rightfully calls me a noob because I basically made a decision to support my platoon mate instead of coming out and helping him out. He's died as a consequence. You know, I think he was always going to die, but he died a little bit quicker. Now you can see this tank, nothing especially strong out there, but we're firing every opportunity we get. The gun is very accurate. The aim time is very low, and in correlation with this SU-152, we are absolutely tearing this flank attack to shreds, as well we should. We're a very good tier 9 medium tank with an excellent gun, and you'd expect us to really pour out the DPM in a situation like this, and we do. So, in essence, this tank is an excellent sniper. It's a very good platoon tank if you run it with a heavy. I don't find it to be a brilliant Wolfpack tank, but again, I did run quite a few games with Pimp Daddy in his T54, and they were very successful as well. But I certainly did not lead the way. It's second tier. You want to hang back. You don't want to waste a gun like this brawling with T54s, or and you don't have the armour to concisely side scrape to the point where you can feel confident and you're going to be able to bounce shells from heavies. Take advantage of the weapon. Take advantage of the ability of the tank to get to snipe spots first, and take advantage of that superb .30 dispersion. I'm Bushka on Blitz. Thanks very much for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. And if you've got any queries, comments, or interesting side notes, please drop me a line. Have a great day.